Welcome traders. I'm recording this on Sunday the 19th for the week commencing Monday the 20th of March 2023. Having a look at the major economic news that is planned for this coming week. I think it's going to be a fairly volatile one. Right, so my focus starts really around the FOMC on Wednesday. My expectation here is that the markets are going to spike quite a bit. A lot of the recent bank failures have moved the focus across to this. In other words, the expectation that the Fed is not going to, in fact, the expectation actually is that the Fed is going to start reducing the rates. But I think for the time being, so there's a lot of attention on this because I'm not convinced that they're done with their job yet. I feel that the idea here is that we're going to have to go through some pain before we can come out the other side. We've been overspending. This is a global phenomenon, by the way. Everything is a bit overpriced. Inflation is still strong. Interest rates have been too low for too long. In order to get back to a normal, natural, healthier state, which could take years, we have to go through some pain. That's basically the global plan at this point in time. So it really depends on how bad the markets get. Anyway, and so also I'll be looking through on Thursday at the monetary policy summary and the official bank for the UK, and then really just generally most of these I will be aware of where they are because I expect them to add some extra volatility into the markets at the time. But the big news is almost certainly going to be focused around Wednesday evening if you're in the UK. So then if we move across and have a look at the charts, we'll start off here with the VIX. We can see that the VIX itself has started to push a little bit higher, but I don't consider it in the danger zone yet. Okay, so it's something that could stay this way for, we had this for a while before. I'm not seeing anything to be too concerned, but just a casual check. It's almost like doing a health checkup, and that's where we are with that. If I move across and have a look at the dollar index, one of the things that I would highlight here is we certainly do appear to be heading low. We've had a bearish, let's just remove the lines temporarily so you can see this, but we had a bearish February, at least for that last week of February, first week of March, second week of March, we appear to be heading lower. So no other way to put it, we appear to be getting a weaker US dollar. We are coming into a support level at that 103 level. Will we find support? That is something we're going to have to see. It would be interesting to see if the market hovers around this area for Wednesday and then bounces off it. Alternatively, we could find ourselves coming back down to the previous lows towards 100, but almost certainly the market is going to move to major levels in anticipation of the FOMC ruling. All right, if we go across and have a look at euro dollar, we can see currently it's range bound. There's no clear trend. We've got a mixture of lows, highs, lower lows, higher highs, lower lows. Again, it's range bound. Okay, so it's swinging wildly. That is a state that we're going to be in for quite some time. If I have a look at sterling, we actually appear to be more bullish than anything else. The market is now testing 1.22. If you look at it from a weekly perspective, it looks as though it wants to push higher. It's above that 50-period moving average. It is looking more bullish than bearish, but from a monthly perspective, we're still range bound. So let's put it ranging bullish would be my way of assessing that. And here we've just we're obviously, let's bring back those levels. We can see we're pushing in to a little bit of a key support resistance level here at that 0.6709. And generally speaking, we are heading low. We did break the low of February, so we are supposed to be more bearish than bullish. But we are now effectively testing this level. We've got a higher low. It doesn't mean we've changed, although we are technically in an uptrend. We really aren't until we solidly break over this line. So this week, what I'm going to be looking for is a big push and a close above that levels, closer to these levels over here at 6775, and looking for that to get that confirmation of a weaker US dollar. But until then, any strong bearish reactions here could actually signal resistance, and failure could ultimately head lower. You can see Kiwi dollar here pushing and crossing over the line. So I'm looking for something similar here for that, and that could provide some good bullish opportunities against the US dollar in this week. But certainly, I'm going to be quicker to take profits, make sure I've got my stop loss in, and potentially even risk lower on my trades. So previously, we were looking for dollar yen to head lower here. It has continued to do that. If we look at it from a weekly perspective, it looks more bearish than bullish. And right now, based off that, excluding the monthly, just for the time being, I'm expecting this to potentially head back down to this 130 level before, or possibly by around about Wednesday, to see how the market reacts to that. Dollars is just a mess. This is a hot mess. We've also got the S&B trying to decide what they're going to do, and so I'm extra cautious on any of the CHF pairs this coming week as well, especially to do with Credit Suisse. So we have, generally speaking, got the markets a bit on edge. Everybody's saying this feels exactly the same as 2008. It isn't. It is and it isn't. Okay, so Michael Burry is probably one person whose judgment I trust, and although there are some similar reasons as to how we got here, it isn't exactly the same. But you know what? It's early days, and it could turn out to be exactly the same. What I would like to do is keep an eye on the markets and just see if the volatility is increasing. Are the candles getting bigger? Is the market getting more jittery? It's too early to make that judgment call. So let's have a look and see what else. So the Russian ruble starting to creep up a little bit there. Let's look at dollars. Oh, euro Swiss, I beg your pardon. So this one ping-ponging around, you can actually see that it's, although we have a bullish weekly candle, we're still stuck within that downtrend. So it is volatile, and therefore I would really exercise extreme caution on that. So let's move across and have a look at gold. Okay, so gold did this very nice pullback. Beautiful little double bottom here as well. So this was a nice little entry opportunity there. For those of you who attended my program, you know we discussed this. So we got a double bottom there, and a really nice bullish candle. That was a ridiculously easy setup in terms of that move, and we had a very, very bullish finish. So we are, there's no doubt we are overextended. We've broken above the previous highs. What I would really like to see this week is a pullback, and I'm happy for it to come back right down to 1900 potentially, or even just back into these previous highs. That could happen very quickly, and again, this is going to be impacted by Wednesday's news, if not anything sooner than that. So exercising some caution there, but gold is certainly on my watches, but I would definitely consider it overextended. It's a very big monthly candle, also bullish weekly candle. It's a big daily candle, so it's just overextended in my view, and I'm just cautious on that. Here's the thing. So there's a couple of these. This is what I was doing in most of last year, and certainly things that I'm looking at here. There's certain factors that I would look at as a technical trader that I'm looking for. To me, there would be clues that the market is a little bit in disarray, and I'm seeing hints of these. They feel a little bit hair-raising, but I don't want to just kind of jump just yet. So very quickly, we've got gold climbing quite aggressively. Okay, so that's one thing we've seen. There's always that concern about it being a hedge against inflation, but I'm talking more about the markets being a little bit fear-driven. So this is, I'm going to demonstrate the two sides of this to you. In fact, I'll tell you what, I'll do it at the end. I'll run through them individually, and then I'll go at the end and explain how there are both signs of panic and signs of not panic. It's quite interesting. So silver is also looking nice and bullish. We've kind of definitely shifted more to the upside here. It's broken these previous highs. This downtrend is done. That looks really nice and bullish. It almost looks as though we've got some good continuation opportunities there. If we go through and have a look at copper, it's in a downtrend that has not managed to turn around. So if we're ultimately going to see a difference here, I need to see copper close higher this coming week. Natural gas is not turning around yet. We've still got that bullish divergence, but it hasn't managed to turn around just yet, and so it's just wobbling sideways, and we're going to see what happens with that. Crude oil, interesting to me, dropping much lower, quite aggressively, a nice little solid break. That's just a solid level, a break of that level of support, and so this has got some good room to move to the downside, but that was a quick move this last week, and we can see the same with Brent crude. So crude oil at this point in time, looking a little bit overextended to the downside. You can see some buyers starting to come in there. I'd like to see some moves, potentially some day trading opportunities to the upside this week, but also looking for trend continuations lower. Okay, we've got wheat. Beautifully, this is what we've been waiting for, just for it to come back into these previous levels. Now looking for a shorting opportunity to set up this coming week, potentially. One of the things I do note, though, is this bullish setup here. This is effectively a rejection. This is quite a strong setup over here that's quite bullish in itself. So there is also the possibility that this could head up all the way back up through to these highs, could go up a little bit further, and it's also coming right off the lows here. So interesting. When I look at the weekly and the monthly, this looks ripe for a bigger bull move to the upside. But when I look at it from a daily setup, it looks as though it's coming in here for a continuation south. At this point, I'm inclined to look more at the weekly and monthly and be more prepared for a bigger move to the upside. And here we've now got coffee in this area. I'm looking for some bullish setups to see if it can hold at this level of resistance and find support, and then potentially do that. But looking at this weekly candle, I would say a break of last week's high would be bullish. A break of last week's low would be bearish. Let's go through sugar itself also. That trend just continues to hold. Bit of a bullish candle there. What I do see is a weekly retracement beginning here. So there might be a turning point here. So looking for this to either continue. But again, if we break these lows, I'd expect it to come back down to these lows. Overall, it's not too overextended. And I wonder if we could come back down to $18.80, which is back into these previous highs. Let's have a look and see. Not too much bearish divergence. Overall, this looks a little bit more bullish than bearish. Cotton continuing to head low, and you can see it looks beautiful. It's very crisp, the behavior here on that monthly chart. You can see strong support, comes back, just cannot break through, and now it's a bearish breakout to the downside. Very heavily bearish momentum. I would expect that to continue lower. Okay, moving on to the global indices. These are also looking more bearish than bullish. They really are battling at this time. And the sentiment to me going on to the S&P, especially with this, here's a pullback, bearish setup here. We've got the 50, 20, and 10 in a bearish formation. A little bit of an indecision candle here. We haven't quite broken these lows here. And again, I think a break of the low of the weekly would signify more momentum and start to pick up and shift lower. But this does look like a potential. I'm just going to mark this as a potential setup lower. I'm always cautious with shorting the US indices because they tend to go up. But given all the sentiment lately, this is looking at just that little bit more bearish than bullish. Let's move through the rest relatively quickly. The Nasdaq, no clear trend. We had a downtrend here. We've moved to the upside. Very strong bullish candle. So Nasdaq tech stocks looking quite bullish. I was going to jump ahead, but cryptos are also looking nice and bullish. So we could see there's that strong correlation. But then we go to the Russell 2000. Russell 2000 looking heavily bearish here, broken through those previous weekly lows. This now is largely range bound on the monthly, and it does look as though it wants to head lower down to that previous 1700 level. The FTSE now also looking heavily bearish. So all the gains that it's made in recent months, it's given back pretty quickly. So I want to see what happens with the break of the low of last week's candle, but it is looking bearish, not looking super strong. And again, that FOMC is likely to produce a different result. So we're going to see the first half of this week could completely reverse on the second half of the week after that, after whatever comes out after that policy. I beg your pardon, after the FOMC. After the conference is what I meant to say, press conference. Here you can see we've produced a swing high on the DAX, and we could find ourselves heading lower. So just exercising again, there's good possibility that we could be very bearish. We overextended on the ASX here to the downside, back at a previous level of support. This is interesting to me to see what's going to happen here with bearish. Possibly a shorter term move to the upside before heading lower if the rest of the market's going to do that. And the Nikkei is still stuck within this range. So nothing has really changed. Big strong rejection off those highs. Could find itself going low, but it's largely range bound. Okay, so individual equities here. Apple looking nice and bullish. Really, really looks nice and strong. So just, so far we're getting those mixed signals. We've got tech stocks doing very well, which is Silicon Valley, kind of there's connections there without a doubt. And then we've got other markets tending to head low, but we've got gold climbing, we've got currencies pushing back against the US dollar. So we're getting very much mixed licorice, all sorts kind of effect here. We look at Amazon, we can see very strong bullish move to the upside there. So that looks pretty good. So for those, I want to see a follow through on it, but yep, pretty happy with that. Whereas we've got AT&T, which has had strong rejections here heading lower, that now looking weaker. Let's look at ARK. ARK is desperately trying to move higher. So ARK also it's desperately, this could be an inverted head and shoulders. This could be something that is worth paying attention to. Nice little bullish candle where the setup is. I'm going to mark that because this could turn out to be significant. And I'm just going to mark this little neckline here. We're just going to create that little neckline and see if ultimately we see a turnaround there. Let's move on. Glencore probably looking bearish. Yeah, that makes sense because of the FTSE. So that's looking heavily bearish. That's likely to continue back down to those lows. Tesco will be similar. Bearish candle here at resistance. I think it's fair to say that we saw that follow through. But I think it's fair to say we're going to see this head a little bit lower, especially off that bearish monthly candle. So far, it's going to be testing support. It would have to turn where it is right now. So you could get a bit of a head and shoulders for me if it changes direction. Amex. Okay, we were talking about Amex being a head and shoulders pattern forming here. So far, it is still playing out. So my expectation is, if that is going to be the case, we're going to see this continue to head lower. Berkshire Hathaway. All right, so Berkshire Hathaway, that's a very heavy kind of a week, I think, a week sort of weeks worth of sell-off. It's broken through these previous lows. That's also looking bearish, and I would expect a bearish continuation here. Then we move on to Coca-Cola. Wow, just struggling a little bit sideways. Look at that. So what's that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 7, 8 weeks worth of just sideways movement. But look at this. Very nice bullish monthly candle here. This looks as though it is setting up to continue up on the monthly side. Let's see if that's going to be the case. Okay, so I'm just going to mark that. I wouldn't put it there. I'd put it there. Let's see if that's going to be the case. And then let's move on through these a little bit faster. So BP, you can see a stronger correction to the downside, went sideways and then just dropped down. That's pretty strong rejection. I think we're going to see this head back down to support. ExxonMobil will be a similar thing. It's already coming back into this area. So ExxonMobil could find a little bit of support this coming week. And if we get a bullish candle in this area, that could be a possible retest of resistance over here to find support. General Motors, range bound, heavily bearish, pushing down towards those lows, but it is range bound. So I want to see what happens in this area if it can find support again. We've got JP Morgan Chase obviously pushing heavily down below those areas. Very strong sell-off bar, very bearish, but and actually broken through that level of support. So continuation, an expectation of continuation would be warranted in my opinion. Then we have this this is Adidas coming back into the previous lows here, producing a series of small bearish candles, the 50, 20, and 10 at a bearish formation. I would expect this. So far, this looks as though its intention is to continue and head lower, especially I would say if we break this previous low of this candle here. What did we get there? Come on, there we go, 135.32. Facebook actually doing relatively well at this time, pushing high. We have an uptrend on the weekly. Bullish candle encountering, as it makes sense that at 200 it's going to find some resistance. We've got some bearish divergence there. So I want to see this week if we break this low as well, if we fail to get through this area. But overall, that is looking more bullish than bearish. But I am concerned about this, and we'll see how this... how that's going to go. Look at this as well. So Morgan Stanley, heavy bearish, heavy selling at that level of resistance at 100. Big round number, big historical number as well. Heavy sell-off. It'll possibly come back down to these previous lows to test for support just in this area here. Possibly back into these levels. Nvidia looking really nice and bullish, but you can see a little bit of bearish divergence creeping in here. That's a very nice bullish candle. It's heading up to these previous highs. Looks pretty good. So this should have that potential to push up to 275. I'd be looking for any kind of pullbacks here on the daily, but I'm keeping an eye on that bearish divergence. So that's looking nice and bullish. We've got Netflix, excuse me, which is pulled into this level of support. Nice round number, produced a bullish candle. Again, I think for me, this one is breaking the high is bullish, breaking the low is bearish. We go through PayPal. I marked that as a possible higher low. That was something I was looking at, and you can see here on the monthly, it does not look good. It does not look bullish. It looks more and more bearish. Looks as though it's just coming back down to those lows. That's quite interesting. So again, I'll keep an eye on that. I'm just going to move this over to this bullish indecision candle, see if we can still produce that higher low. Because we have that bullish divergence. There's definite bullish divergence creeping in there. Can it continue? And we'll see if it's going to change direction there, but it doesn't look super good. Spotify looking better, by comparatively speaking, battling with resistance over here. Just bring this out over here. But look at that bearish divergence. So you've got these equal highs here or higher highs, and then you can just see they've all dropped here. So it's battling with that area, but it looks better here, but there is a level. Okay, so I'm just going to mark this level over here and see how that goes if we can get through it. Looks a little bit, it's just amazing how different they all are. They're not all doing the same thing anymore. So Spider also hitting a little bit low there. Doesn't look great, but as it gets near the bottom, it gets trickier because it gets cheap, right? And it starts to attract attention. Look at this one. So FedEx, bullish engulfing candle and broken through that downwards trend line. This looks good. This looks comparatively speaking, that gap up as well is way more bullish for me than anything else. I find that interesting. How's Tesla doing? So Tesla's weekly looks okay, not super bullish. We're still in a monthly downtrend. That is a potential bearish signal. So it is important to me how, and you can see this neckline. We spoke about this potentially being a head and shoulders. It is important to me. This could simply be a move down, a retest of that trend line, and then a continuation south. It's important to me. I'd like to see how we close for March on this, and especially if we start to break back below this level. If we break back below 160, we're going to see Tesla. It then becomes very likely we could see Tesla come all the way back down to those previous lows. So I think this week is somewhat important. I'd like to see it push back up to these highs, or stay or close above 180 as a level. Vanguard also here. looking at a level of support. There could be something significant here at this level with these bullish, with this bullish setup. Sorry, I'm just trying to find a place to put that. But yeah, it doesn't look super strong. Look at it from a monthly perspective. To me, this looks more bearish than bullish. So then we get to bonds. So we see gold climbing and we see bonds climbing, and quite aggressively as well. We've got bullish divergence. We see very strong bullish monthly candles. They've been overextended to the downside, and they're forming a double bottom. So this is potentially a quite a strong signal over there. I'm just going to mark that over that and see how we close. But this is looking bullish, and I think there's something significant here. That's what I'm saying. The markets are starting to swing a little bit wildly. We've got a couple of banks failing. We can see bonds are starting to climb. So if we compare that to, say, Eurobond, we can see also here bullish divergence, really strong bottom here. That's another bullish signal, so I'm going to mark that. And we can see these are starting to look as though they want to head higher. So bonds starting to get stronger. These are the kind of things where I would expect to see these if we were heading into a bit of a dire patch. It's interesting to me because, of course, the markets have already corrected quite a bit. Burry himself isn't as bearish as he was before. He's still keeping an eye on the markets. So I just find that interesting to see that's going to be the case. Then we look at cryptos. We can see Bitcoin is doing very well at the moment. Really nice, strong weekly candle there, looking good. It's now approaching 30,000, which is going to be a test. All right, we'll see if we can get through it. It's overextended on the daily. Any kind of a pullback to 25,000 for me would be a potential entry opportunity to go back up to the upside there. Okay, so let's look at Ethereum. Also nice and bullish, a nice little consolidation breakout on the weekly, bullish close. This is more bullish than bearish. 2000 has become a viable target. Solana still drifting around, treading water, doesn't look as good. We've got Cardano. All of these, I guess because they're not as established, they are not getting the same amount of love. Binance has managed to break up above this level. It dipped below the level of support and has broken through it. I like that. So that's looking good on that. Monthly, it's looking more and more bullish. And then we've got a couple of others. Digital World Acquisitions is drained right down. So there we go. So I said that it sort of run through everything. So very quickly speaking, when we look at that dollar index, certainly looks as though we're going to see, at least initially, we're going to see a weakening US dollar. So we could see euro, pound, Aussie dollar head higher. Does almost seem as though we could see dollar yen head lower, which is different from what I was speaking about a month ago. But then we see gold. And gold's really bullish. We can see silver is really bullish. We see bonds are very bullish. Okay, so those are sort of fear-driven types of behavior. But then we see crypto, we see tech stocks, which have been, taking a beating over the last 18 months, starting to look really bullish, while some of the others, such as small cap companies, are taking quite a hit. Very interesting to me to see that mixture across the board. If I was seeing tech stocks and cryptos take a beating, then I would be more concerned. But it does appear that tech stocks are very optimistic, and the only thing that really kind of brings that up to the foreground would be the recent behavior. Certainly with Silicon Valley, there we could see there's some optimism being injected in there, and so therefore there's possibly seeing some opportunity. So it's interesting to me. I would this week for in terms of trading opportunities, day trading opportunities, I like the look of certainly cautious as we head into Wednesday, but I like the idea of a potentially a weaker US dollar. I'll be monitoring the 4-hour because that really tells me which way the markets are likely to go while not having to monitor the daily. I like the idea of gold, but any of these markets that are overextended, I'm going to wait for some corrections on those. If I see bullish continuations or bearish continuations, that's fine, but I'll probably reduce my risk on that. And then with regards to stocks portfolio, I always find this interesting because as the markets head lower, to me, they represent potential longer-term discounted opportunities, the way that Buffett likes to do value investing. So you'd have a watch list of stocks that you've calculated, using his approach, and technically looking for some of those to find a bit of a base. So yeah, interesting. All kinds of things happening. I'd love to hear some feedback from you. Any questions or comments, please put in the comment section below and I'll come back to you on that. Thank you very much.